look, I don't want to make this an argument. I want you to explain. Because my argument to you is conservative policies work. Okay. You know, I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan. I don't care if it's Newt Gingrich's contract. I don't care if it's Donald Trump's 4 years as president. Got it. I believe his policies work. Peace through strength work, building up our military, building a wall, enforcing law and order, energy independence, which Biden gave up, which he didn't bring up.
Which I'm happy to directly.
Let me show you a list of corporate headquarters that are leaving your state in well,
okay, I'm going to have a strong opinion.
There you go.
I'm well aware.
Corporate headquarters, they're leaving. Look at San Francisco in particular. They're closing down because they can't keep their product in the store because they're getting robbed. I got another one for you. Seasonally adjusted business applications. You always bring up Florida. I compared you to Florida. I think you have a higher population, if I'm not mistaken.
A significantly higher population.
Why are they doing better in business formulation?
Well, we'll have to take a look at that in more detail.
Take a look.
I'm happy that we're looking forward. How many more of these you have? Let's go.
About 8.
Bring them on.
Bring them all on?
Bring them all on. Let's have this conversation.
Okay. Let me ask you. This is a tough question for you.
I don't think it will be. Well, let's find out.
All right. So you're the first governor in history that has had a net migration out of the Golden State. Go west, young man.
Yep.
I lived here by the way, I lived here 5 years.
Horace Greeley.
I was the poorest guy in Santa Barbara at the time in the early 80s. If you look at, I want you to really look at this and explain for the years 2021 and 2022 why Florida is taking in nearly 1,000 people a day, and you're losing 800 people a day. They're leaving. Tell me why they're leaving your state.
So we'll stop at 3, or you want to do the whole?
No. We'll just answer one at a time.
18 states had declines in population. California's was 0.3%. You didn't bring up any of the red states that had decline in populations. It's an interesting fact, and I don't see it on here. An interesting omitted fact.
What's that?
Per capita, more Floridians moved to California than Californians moving to Florida. That, I don't imagine, is...
I don't care what he just said. He has a net migration from his state. I lived in California almost all my life, and it got progressively worse. And granted, I lived overseas for part of that time. I've lived in 7 different countries now, and I've traveled to 60. But California and Los Angeles were my home until the end of 2017, and we left at the beginning of 2018, finally for good, have not been home. And everything that I know, it's just been exacerbated. But once again, he's trying to bring up some weird statistic that may or may not even be true, despite the fact that from his state are exiting so many more people. And a lot of them are moving to Florida. And I know many of them, and so do you.
In one of your 8 slides, let me take another stab at this. In 2021, California had 7.8% of GDP growth in this country, one of the fastest growing economies anywhere on planet Earth. This state continues to be the tentpole of the American economy. 25.6% of all American jobs came from this state in April. In the last 2 fiscal years, we enjoyed $177.7 billion in operating surpluses. We're on our way to be the 4th largest economy, eat your heart out, Germany, in the world. Number 1 in R&D, venture capital, more scientists, research.
Let me tell you something. This is because of the past. California, I grew up in Silicon Valley, and my father worked for Hewlett-Packard his entire life as an engineer / physicist. And it used to be that it was a great place to found a company. You had fertile soil there. It was encouraged. Now merit is being discouraged. Now you are seeing homelessness rise dramatically. That was a big part of the reason why we left Los Angeles. In addition to the fact that it's so damn expensive and so much of your income is going to the state for things, to pay for things that I absolutely disagree with, including the aforementioned medical care for illegals while we had to pay for our own health insurance. To me, that seems fundamentally flawed. And this is what it was in the past. And you have to look as to where the puck is going. So he's concentrating on California's past and riding that inertia. And object of motion tends to want to stay in motion once you have that going. But that is coming to an end. And you are seeing it in San Francisco and Los Angeles. And all the super wealthy people that have moved from Joe Rogan to Elon Musk to Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire, Hewlett-Packard, Oracle, Tesla, all of these companies have moved operations out of state. And yes, California still does have a lot of incredible companies within the state, including Apple and Google, but you have to look at as to the future and the trend. And it's really hard to stop, once again, that inertia once it gets going. And you've been able to destroy everything that used to give California the huge advantages, which is why so many people are leaving the state.
More Nobel laureates, more patents emanating out of this state than any other state in America. With all due respect, Florida doesn't even come close. Eat your heart out, Texas. California continues to be the dominant economic engine for the American
I promised you
Again,
before this interview
from
I
the
would let you
past.
give full answers. That's a full answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm going to challenge it.
Good.
And the challenge is this is the first time in the history of the state that you've lost population.
Yes.
The first time.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to give you another sheet here. And this is about income tax.
There's that
Your
laughing
state
end.
income tax is 13.3% at the highest number. I also did more digging. The top 1% of Californians pay 50% of that total income tax bill.
Yeah.
Fully
About-
half.
roughly, yeah.
That's redistribution of wealth, isn't it?
Well, it's progressive tax
All right.
policy.
Now,
It's
look at yours,
redistribution.
13.3. What is Florida? What does that say? It says zero.
Well, it's factually untrue. It's not zero. They
have zero
no,
state
the
income
top
tax.
one. Well, the top 1% pay. Look, here you're promoting.
You're,
It is
that-
a fact.
Is that
It's
a lie?
0%.
No, here's what you're promoting. You're promoting regressive tax policy. We don't believe in regressive tax policy. You're promoting one component of entire tax system, the 1%. With all due respect, you and I may pay the 1%. The vast majority of people watching don't. You pay more taxes in states like Texas for the middle class than you do in states
Okay.
like California.
Right now-
Hold on, no.
That's
this is
such
important.
too many
BS.
American
How is
people
that
don't know this.
possible?
We have the highest tax rate for the 1%, but middle class families actually pay less than the majority of states in America.
Okay, I know this for a fact because I was not at the 13.3% when I was living within the state of California, but I was still paying over 10% to the state in addition to sales tax, in addition to the gasoline tax. It is what I just said, the most expensive state in the nation to live in, basically, or at least certainly up there. And you don't get a lot for your money. And it's less and less and less as the homeless continue to take over neighborhoods, as they took over mine in West Los Angeles, which is a really nice place to live. But the quality of life in California is decreasing rapidly. So everything that he's saying, I don't understand what he's saying because it's simply not true. We moved to Nevada for a temporary period of time where the income tax is 0%. And believe me, the cost of living there is far cheaper, including what you pay to the state. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about when Texas, which has a 0% income tax, or Florida, which has the same, that people, middle-class families are paying more. BS.
In California. The question is, who are you for? So who are you fighting for?
I am for. I'm just wondering because I have homes in Florida.
Yeah.
And
You pay a lot of property tax there, double what you pay in California. I would
That's
think.
not
I'd
true.
say about that.
except if you add the
In Los Angeles, the property taxes when I left, because we were looking at buying a house there, or we were thinking about it, were 1.25%. And in Florida, it's 2%. So it's not double. It is more, but it's not double.
millionaire property tax that you've just put in LA County.
Well, that's a transfer tax, and we didn't do that. That was done
transfer
locally.
tax is like
By the way,
$500,000.
I don't know if you can even get house insurance down.
So
in
you're
Florida as
telling
well.
me the loss of net population
18 states, we were number
and you're
10.3.
Hold on. He just said that he doesn't even know if you can get house insurance down in Florida. You know what? That might be because of the hurricanes that they might not be able to account for, but I don't even believe that's true. One thing I do know for sure is that both State Farm and Allstate have decided that they will stop writing new policies within the state of California for anything other than car insurance because they cannot assess the risk that they have in California because it is so poorly mismanaged. So if you're buying a house in California, your insurance premium is going to be far higher without the competition of those two insurance behemoths. Far, far higher. And that is a direct result of Gavin Newsom's policies.
this number here, 13.3%. Now, every Californian
Which
also
we've had since
Hang on.
for a decade.
Okay,
For a decade.
but Right, and you supported it for a
The
decade.
public actually initiated
Okay.
it. It was supported by the public.
But the point is, Florida has
Yeah,
zero.
blame it on the public.
The net population growth, hang on, per Florida
That's for
is
the
almost
1%.
is almost 1,000 new
Sean,
people a day, and you're losing 800 people
I
a day.
respect-
Wait, here's my question: is this connected to that?
No, I respect your
Of
audience
course it
too much
is.
to let them be misled on this.
Wait. I'm going to speak from personal experience. Of course, it is related to the taxation policies. When I started to make more money, I started to see less values in paying an incremental amount greater to the United States, especially if I was going to hit that 13.3% threshold that everybody dreams that they will be able to one day hit that number, but not to pay that amount in taxes. So of course it is related. When the quality of life decreases within the state of California and you're being charged more and more and more by the mafioso type government to live within the state's borders, then of course it leads to an exodus.
Your audience
this is a
doesn't
lie?
live in that rarefied. No,
This is a lie?
You're manipulating
No,
some
it's not.
fundamental facts. You're omitting the fact that the vast majority of people do not live in the 1%. You're talking about the 1% tax.
1% pays.
And the 1% are definitely a huge number of the people that are leaving for the reasons that I just described. And that is your tax base. It was stated earlier that the 1% pay 50% of California's taxes. So you wonder why California is going to be in dire financial straits in the very near future because of exactly the policies that they are initiating in the competition between states that lead people to leave.
Half of it.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about the American people don't live there. And the reality is when they live in Texas versus California, middle class pay more than
How?
they do in the state of California.
That's just
is
not
higher
true.
tax than Florida, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but
and
your
by the
beef
way-
seems to be with Ron DeSantis.
No, well, man, we could talk about Abbott
the
for a good
kidnapper.
section.
We'll get into that in a little
But
bit.
you know, here's my point.
Yeah.
We've had a progressive tax, but I didn't establish the 13.3%. That was done before I even got here. I've opposed new increases in the top 1% tax.
You know why he opposed the new increases, which is actually true, is because he realizes how many more people are going to flee. If you raise another couple of percent, eventually the graph that people have in their minds as to how much they're willing to pay versus the services that they are being offered, it goes off kilter. And he recognizes that to his credit, but that's the reason why he did not follow the progressives in raising the taxes on the wealthy further. Of course, they found other ways to do so.
I oppose the statewide wealth tax. I've never been a profligate Democrat. I balance budgets. We make the hard choices. I'm a business guy starting
You have a
21
deficit of
businesses.
$32 billion this year.
This state, we dominate in venture capital, innovation. We have the finest system
Not
of
answering
public
the
higher
question.
education anywhere on planet Earth. We convey more talent than any place on the planet. This state, I mean, R&D, what did Tesla just do? They moved back into the state of California. Disney's moving their jobs back from Florida in the state of California. You didn't acknowledge per capita more Floridians coming back to California than Californians going to Florida. This was anomalous. 18 states saw a decline. I love this state. Don't count us out. I've been hearing this bashing all my life.
I am not, but I have a list.
I'm sorry. That is just the fact that the crime in California, the homelessness, the taxes, all of that is a decrease in quality of life versus the surcharges and the equation that people run in their head shifts them away from the state. And without policy changes, that will continue, and it will continue at an even faster rate because there are people like me that saw what was happening early, and there are people that are going to catch up to them, and they've been stuck in the state because they have family or their jobs there, and I have greater flexibility than the average person, but it is going to come faster and faster and faster. That's just the reality. It's the inertia
of all the state headquarters, and I'll scroll them on our screen, and you could take a look at them. These are all the corporations that have left your state.
And we're creating
their corporate headquarters, one after another after another. There's a lot. So what I'm pointing out is,
you hear that last
jobs are we
again?
creating? How many
So
unicorn companies?
you've
How many
got-
IPOs? 3 times Florida, twice the number of Texas. Don't omit all of the.
And all that he's saying might be true, but it is based on California's past and its reputation and the fact that in Silicon Valley, you were able to build such companies. Such is no longer the case when people are afraid to go into the offices in San Francisco because of the crime, because of the shoplifting, because it just becomes a place of a lower quality of life. And thus people want to regain that at a lower cost. And why wouldn't they? The only thing that keeps a lot of people within the state of California is the weather.
Facts.
Okay,
That's all I'm asking.
okay, I'm asking you not to admit all the facts. So we have all these corporations. Let me give you a list here. Here's the whole list: Tesla, Apple, Nestle,
Tesla just
Oracle.
moved their world headquarters
They have
for R&D
moved
back
their
here.
business headquarters out of your state.
Yeah, and how many jobs they
Here's
created
the
in
whole
this
list. I gave you.
And how many
here's a
jobs
copy.
left with them? How many
Would you like
jobs?
to keep it?
No,
A ton.
we need to know. None.
A ton.
It was insignificant,
A
inconsequential.
ton. All the new jobs that were created at the new Tesla Gigafactory, those were not built within the state of California. Those are in Texas and Nevada because the building requirements, because the environmental impact studies are far less. And people need to be able to do business, and they'll go where the cost is lower. So if you want to talk about the policies that have created new startups elsewhere, created new avenues for industry, not within the state of California, that is why they are all leaving.
Create more companies every single day, more billionaires.
I'm scrolling these
No
companies.
state, no, 1/2 of America's $1 billion valued companies are in the state of California. This state economy has outperformed the nation, 3.1% in the last decade, 2.1% nationwide. I've been hearing this nonsense for half a century, literally half a century.
But they've
People
only
counting
left
us
in
out.
recent years.
How many have we created? How many new IPOs? How many new opportunities? How many jobs were taken out of the state of California when Tesla moved its headquarters? You don't know that because it was insignificant.